The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by any species. It floated in the empty space between 3 star systems, and its walls were made of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Inside, 12 platforms rose like mountains, each one holding a delegate from the elder species. These were the rulers of the galaxy. They had lived for millions of years. They had conquered stars and built empires before humans had learned to make fire. At the bottom of the chamber, standing on a small platform meant for visitors, was Kong Deho. He was the ambassador from Earth. He was 62 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had stood in this chamber many times before. Every time, the result was the same. "Honored elders," Deho said, his voice echoing in the vast space. "I come before you with an urgent request. The human colony of New Busan is under threat. Vorn marauders have been spotted in the system. They will attack within 5 days. We need military support." The chamber was silent. The elder delegates did not move. They barely seemed to breathe. Finally, one of them spoke. His name was Oryx, and he belonged to the Relori species. His body was made of living crystal, tall and sharp, with light moving inside him like slow lightning. His voice was cold and smooth. "Ambassador Kong," Oryx said, "humanity is classified as a Tier 7 species. Your colonies fall under your own protection. The Council does not waste resources on minor civilizations." Deho felt his hands shake. He had heard these words before. He had heard them when the Vorn attacked the colony on Jeju Prime. He had heard them when a plague swept through the settlements on Hanwell Station. Every time humanity needed help, the answer was the same. 200,000 people live on New Busan, Deho said. Men, women, children, they will die. Then they will die, Oryx replied. This is the nature of weak species. The strong survive. The weak do not. This is the order of the galaxy. Deho opened his mouth to argue, but he saw the faces of the other delegates. The Shal, the Morton, the Vexery. None of them cared. To them, humans were like insects. Small, unimportant, forgettable. This meeting is concluded, Oryx announced. You may leave. Deho walked out of the chamber with heavy steps. His assistant, a young man named Han Su, was waiting outside. Su was only 25 years old, with sharp eyes and a serious face. He saw the look on Deho's face and knew the answer before he asked. They refused, Su said quietly. They always refuse, Deho replied. We are nothing to them. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Captain Kong Yuna received the message on her patrol vessel, the Horizon. She was Deho's daughter. She had his strong jaw and his stubborn spirit, but where he had grown tired, she had grown angry. Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship, reading the message again and again. Around her, her crew watched in silence. They were young men and women from Earth, from the colonies, from everywhere humans had spread across the stars. They had joined the patrol fleet because they believed in protecting their people. Now they learned that no one else would protect them. Captain, said Lieutenant Choi Minho. He was Yuna's second in command, a tall man with kind eyes and a calm voice. What do we do? Yuna looked at the star map on the screen. New Busan was 3 days away at maximum speed. The Vorn fleet was 5 days out. If they left now, they might arrive in time. We go, Yuna said. We help them ourselves. The Horizon is 1 ship, Minho said carefully. The Vorn will have at least 10. Maybe more. I know the numbers, Yuna replied. But those are our people, our families, our friends. If we do not fight for them, who will? The crew did not argue. They had all lost someone to the galaxy's indifference. They had all learned that humanity had no friends among the stars. On New Busan, the colonists were preparing for the worst. The planet was beautiful. Green mountains, blue oceans, and fields of golden grass that swayed in the wind. The colonists had built their city in a valley, surrounded by forests. They had come here to build a new life. Now they faced death. Dr. Park Jisoo worked in the colony's research center. She was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life. She was 38 years old, with short black hair and glasses that she was always adjusting. When she heard about the council's refusal, she did not cry. She did not scream. She simply walked to her laboratory and began to work. If we cannot run, she said to herself, then we must fight. In the engineering bay, Lee Tiemann had the same thought. He was 40 years old, a man who had spent his life building things. He had built homes, bridges, and power stations. Now he would build weapons. The Vorn have advanced technology, Tiemann said to his team. But technology can be beaten. Everything can be beaten. He looked at the mining equipment in the storage bay. Heavy machines designed to cut through rock and metal. With some changes, they could cut through Vorn ships just as easily. The people of New Busan did not wait for rescue. They did not beg for mercy. They gathered their tools, their courage, and their hope. Farmers became soldiers. Teachers became medics. Children helped carry supplies. On the third day, the horizon arrived. Captain Yuna looked at the planet through the viewport. It was small and green and fragile. 200,000 souls lived on its surface. This is where we make our stand, Yuna said to her crew. The galaxy may have forgotten us, but we will remind them who we are. In the distance, sensors detected the Vorn fleet. 15 warships. Their hulls were black as night, and their weapons glowed with red fire. They were coming to destroy, to kill, to erase another human colony from the stars, but this time, humans were ready. Daeho sat alone in his office on Earth, watching the reports from New Busan. He was too old to fight, too tired to hope, but somewhere deep inside him, a small spark still burned. Prove them wrong, he whispered to his daughter across the stars. Show them what we can be. The battle for New Busan was about to begin. The Vorn fleet came out of faster than light, traveled like a storm breaking over the horizon. 15 warships, each one the size of a small city, with weapons that could burn continents to ash. Their commander, a creature of black scales and burning eyes, looked at the single human patrol vessel blocking his path. He made a sound that might have been laughter. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Kong Yuna watched the enemy ships spread across her screen like dark stains on the stars. She felt fear, cold and sharp, in her chest, but she did not let it reach her face. All hands to battle stations, she said calmly. Today we show the galaxy what humans are made of. Lieutenant Choi Minho stood beside her, his hands steady on the weapons console. He had served with Yuna for 7 years. He knew she was afraid. He was afraid too. But fear was just another enemy to fight. Weapons ready, Captain, Minho reported. Shields at maximum. On the surface of New Busan, the colonists watched the sky. Dr. Park Jisoo stood at the command center, her tablet glowing with data. She had worked without sleep for 3 days, and her eyes were red and tired, but her mind was sharp as a blade. Tiemann, she said into her communicator. Are the pulse weapons ready? Ready, came the reply. Engineer Lee Tiemann stood in the valley below the city, surrounded by machines that had been mining equipment just days ago. Now they were electromagnetic pulse cannons, crude but powerful. Just give me a target. The Vorn commander sent a message to the horizon. His voice was rough and cruel. Human vessel. Surrender your colony. Your people will be slaves. This is mercy. Resistance means death. Yuna opened a channel to respond. Her voice was steady. This is Captain Kong Yuna of the United Human Fleet. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. If you want our people, come and take them. The Vorn commander ended the transmission. His ships moved forward. The horizon fired first. Blue energy bolts streaked across space, striking the lead Vorn ship. The shields flickered but held. The enemy returned fire with weapons that glowed like red stars. The horizon shook as blasts hit its hull. Damage report, Yuna ordered. Hull breach on deck 7, an officer shouted. Shields down to 60%. 1 ship against 15. The numbers were impossible. But Yuna had not come here to win by numbers. Execute pattern Delta, she commanded. Draw them toward the planet. The Horizon turned and ran, firing backward at the pursuing ships. The Vorn followed eagerly, sensing easy prey. They did not know they were being led into a trap. On the ground, Jisoo watched the sensors. They are entering the atmosphere. 3 ships. No, 5. They are coming for the city. Let them come, Taemin said grimly. He aimed his pulse cannon at the sky. The first Vorn landing ship broke through the clouds. It was massive, carrying hundreds of soldiers ready to kill and capture. Taemin pressed the trigger. The electromagnetic pulse hit the ship like an invisible fist. Its systems failed. Its engines died. The massive vessel fell from the sky and crashed into the mountains 5 kilometers from the city. A ball of fire rose into the air. The colonists cheered, but Jisoo silenced them. For more coming, and more behind them. The battle became chaos. Vorn ships fell from the sky, struck by pulse cannons. But others landed successfully, their doors opening to release waves of soldiers. The creatures were tall and fast, with claws that could cut through metal and eyes that saw in the dark. The colonists fought back with everything they had. Farmers fired hunting rifles. Engineers threw grenades made from mining explosives. Jisoo herself took a weapon and defended the medical station where wounded were being treated. In orbit, the Horizon was dying. 6 Vorn ships surrounded it, pouring fire into its shields. Yuna watched her ship break apart around her. Captain Minho said urgently, "The engine core is failing. If it explodes, we lose everything. Can you stop it?" Yuna asked. "I can try." Minho turned to leave the bridge. "Keep them busy." He ran through burning corridors, past wounded crew members, past sparking wires and broken walls. The engine room was filled with smoke and fire. The core was cracking, energy leaking from its surface like blood from a wound. Minho knew what he had to do. He entered the emergency codes and began the manual shutdown. But it required someone to stay inside the chamber, someone to hold the controls while the radiation killed them. "Captain," he said over the communicator, "the core is stable. The ship will survive." Yuna heard something in his voice. "Minho, get out of there." "I cannot, Captain." His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "Tell my family I love them. Tell them I died standing." The core stabilized. The Horizon survived. Lieutenant Choi Minho did not. Yuna screamed his name, but there was no time for grief. 3 Vorn ships remained in orbit. On the ground, the battle still raged. "All power to forward weapons," Yuna ordered, her voice hard as iron. Target the flagship. The Horizon turned to face its enemies, one final time. Its weapons fired in a concentrated burst, striking the Vorn flagship directly in its reactor. The ship exploded in a ball of white light. The other 2 ships, seeing their leader destroyed, turned and fled. On the surface, the Vorn soldiers stopped fighting. Without support from orbit, they were trapped. The colonists surrounded them. Some surrendered. Others tried to fight and were cut down. When the sun set over New Busan, the battle was over. 11 Vorn ships had been destroyed. 4 had escaped. 200 colonists had died. The Horizon was barely functional. Held together by emergency repairs and stubborn hope, but the colony survived. Dr. Jesu stood in the ruined city center, looking at the bodies being carried away, human and Vorn alike. The cost had been terrible. Captain Yuna landed a shuttle in the city square. She walked among the survivors, her uniform burned and torn. She found Jisoo and Taemin standing together. "We won," Yuna said quietly. "Did we?" Jisoo asked. "The Council will ignore this. The galaxy will forget." "Maybe," Yuna replied. "But we will not forget. And we will not forgive." She looked at the stars above, at the endless darkness where enemies waited. "This is just the beginning." The Galactic Council received the battle reports. They read them with disbelief. A single human ship destroying 11 Vorn warships? Impossible. The reports must be wrong. They filed the reports away, continued with their business. They did not know that everything had changed. They did not know that in the ashes of New Busan, a fire had started. a fire that would one day burn across the galaxy. Humanity had been ignored. Humanity had been forgotten. But humanity remembered everything. 50 years passed like water flowing through stones, slowly, quietly, but with a force that could shape mountains. Kong Daeho died in the winter of his 87th year. He passed away in his sleep, still believing that his life's work had failed. His daughter Yuna stood at his grave on Earth, surrounded by falling snow. She did not cry. She had no tears left. "I will finish what you started," she whispered to the cold stone. "I promise." The galaxy did not notice when humanity began to change. The elder species were busy with their own affairs: trade disputes, border conflicts, political games that had been played for millions of years. Humans were still classified as Tier 7. Still ignored? Still forgotten? This was exactly what humanity wanted. Han Su became the new ambassador to the Galactic Council. He was no longer the young assistant who had waited outside the chamber while Daeho begged for help. He was 50 years old now, with silver at his temples and ice in his heart. He smiled at the elder delegates. He spoke soft words. He made himself invisible. But behind his smiles, he was building something new. "The council will never help us," Su told his advisors in secret meetings. "So we must help ourselves. We must become so strong that they cannot ignore us, so powerful that they must listen." The old human patrol fleet was dismantled. In its place, shipyards across 37 human colonies began building warships. Not small patrol vessels, but massive battle cruisers designed for one purpose: war. Admiral Kung Yuna, now in her 60s with white hair and a body marked by old wounds, commanded the construction. She visited every shipyard, every training base, every weapons facility. She drove her people hard because she knew what waited in the darkness. "The galaxy is not kind," she told her officers. "It does not care about justice or fairness or mercy. The only law is power. If we want to survive, we must become powerful." 2 young officers rose quickly through the ranks. OJ was a tactician, a quiet man with a brilliant mind for strategy. He could look at a battlefield and see 100 moves ahead, like a master playing a game of chess. Shin Nari was a pilot, fearless and fast, with reflexes that seemed almost superhuman. They were the best of their generation, and Yuna trained them personally. "Jay thinks too much," Nari once complained during a training exercise. "By the time he makes a plan, the enemy has already shot us." "Nari acts without thinking," Jay replied calmly. "She will fly into a star someday because it looked exciting." Yuna laughed, a rare sound. "You will work together," she said. "His mind and your courage. That is what humanity needs." On the research front, Dr. Park Jisoo was changing everything. The crude pulse weapons from New Busan had been just the beginning. Now she led the Xenotech Institute, a massive facility hidden on a moon in an unnamed system. Here, captured alien technology was studied, taken apart, and rebuilt. "The elder species have had millions of years to develop their weapons," Jisoo explained to her team. "We have had 1 century, but we have something they do not. We are hungry. We are desperate. We learn fast because we have no choice." Engineer Lee Temin worked beside her. He was 70 now, his hands scarred from decades of building machines. But his mind was still sharp. Together, they created the adaptive warfare system. It was technology that could learn during battle, changing its tactics, improving its responses, evolving in real time. The elder species had never seen anything like it. But weapons and ships were only part of the plan. Ambassador Zhu traveled secretly to the worlds of other forgotten species. The Mara, small creatures with gray skin and large dark eyes, who had been slaves to the elder races for centuries. The Keld, tall beings of blue light who had been pushed to the edges of the galaxy. The Vasi, who looked like humans but with skin the color of copper and eyes like gold. "The council calls us all inferior," Su told them. "They say we are weak, that we deserve to suffer. But together, we are not weak. Together, we are an army." The alliances were built in shadow. No treaties were signed. No announcements were made. The elder species continued their games, never noticing the web being woven beneath them. 50 years. 50 years of quiet preparation. 50 years of hidden growth. The human fleet grew to 400 ships. The Alliance of Forgotten Species added hundreds more. Training programs produced thousands of soldiers, pilots, and commanders. Every human colony became a fortress with weapons hidden beneath peaceful cities and defenses buried in peaceful mountains. Admiral Yuna, now 72, looked at the star maps in her quarters one night. The maps showed human space in blue, spreading across the galaxy like a slow tide. Where there had once been 12 colonies, where there had been one patrol ship, there were now 400 warships. Commander J stood beside her. He was 40 now, the same age Yuna had been during the Battle of New Busan. He had become the son she never had. "We are ready," Jay said quietly. Almost Yuna replied. "We are missing one thing." "What?" "A reason." Yuna turned from the maps. "We have built an army, but we cannot strike first. We are not conquerors. We are not monsters. We need the galaxy to see that we fight because we must, not because we want to." Jay understood. "So, we wait." "We wait," Yuna agreed, "but not for long. The elder species are arrogant. They will give us a reason. They always do." She was right in the council chambers. The Dominion of Shao, the most powerful of the elder species, was growing restless. They had ruled the galaxy for 10 million years. They had crushed every challenger. And now they looked at the stars and saw too many species that did not bow to them. The Shao commander, a creature of silver armor and cold eyes, spoke to his council. "The galaxy is cluttered with inferior life. It is time to clean it." The purification was about to begin, and humanity was about to answer. "Admiral," Yuna received the intelligence report one morning. The Dominion was preparing to attack the Keld homeworld. The Council would do nothing. The Keld would die, unless someone stopped them. Yuna smiled. "A cold and terrible thing." "On the call," she ordered. "Wake the fleet. It is time." The shadow years were over. The war had begun. The Keld homeworld was called Luminara. It was a planet of eternal twilight, where the sky glowed with soft purple light, and the forests sang with the voices of ancient creatures. The Keld had lived there for 200,000 years. They were beings of pure energy, trapped in physical forms, gentle and wise, and completely defenseless against the storm that was Ko-Off. Ming.2000 ships of the Dominion of Shao dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Luminara. Their hulls were silver and black, covered with weapons that pulsed with deadly light. The commander of the fleet, a Shao warlord named Varric, looked at the planet below with contempt. "Begin the purification," he ordered. "Leave nothing alive." The first missiles fell like burning rain across the galaxy. In the council chambers, the elder delegates watched the attack on their screens. Some looked away. Others simply continued their conversations. The Keld were tirate, even lower than humans. Their death was sad, perhaps, but not important. Only the relary delegate Oryx seemed troubled. He had lived for 3 million years. He had seen many species die. But something felt different this time. Something in the shadows was moving. "Should we not intervene?" asked a younger delegate. "The Shao are our strongest members," Oryx replied. "We cannot oppose them. The Keld will fall. This is the way of things." But the way of things was about to change. In the darkness of space, 400 human warships emerged from their hiding place behind a dead moon. They were joined by 300 ships from the Mara, 200 from the Vasi, and 100 from smaller species who had answered the call. An army of the forgotten, united by rage and hope, Admiral OJ stood on the bridge of the flagship, the Defiance. He was calm. He was always calm. Beside him, Commander Shinari paced like a caged animal, eager for battle. 2,000 enemy ships, Jay said quietly. "We have 1,000. "I like those odds," Nari replied with a fierce grin. On Earth. In a medical facility, Admiral King Yuna watched the battle unfold on a screen. She was 72 years old now. Too weak to command a ship, but too stubborn to die before seeing this moment. Dr. Park Jisoo sat beside her. Holding her hand, "They will win," Jisoo said softly. "They must," Yuna replied. The human fleet struck like lightning from a clear sky. The shell had expected no resistance. The Keld had no military. The Council had abandoned them. Who would be foolish enough to challenge the Dominion? The answer came in beams of blue fire and missiles that twisted through space like living things. The adaptive warfare system that Jisoo and Taemin had created was working perfectly. Every time the shell adjusted their tactics, the human weapons adjusted faster. Every shield frequency was broken. Every formation was disrupted. Commander Varek screamed orders from his flagship. "Who are they?" "Where did they come from?" "Unknown fleet commander," his officers reported. "Configuration does not match any known species." "They're humans," said a junior officer, his voice filled with disbelief. "Tier 7. "The ones we ignore?" "Possible," Varek snarled. "Humans have no fleet." But the impossible was happening before his eyes. Admiral J commanded his forces with precision. Squadron 7, target their left flank. Squadron 12, protect the Mara carriers. Nari, take your fighters and make some chaos. Finally, Nari said, running to her fighter. Some fun. Her squadron launched from the Defiance like arrows from a bow. 50 small fighters, fast and deadly, weaving between the massive warships. Nari flew at the front, her hands dancing over the controls, her heart singing with battle joy. The shell fighters tried to intercept, but they were too slow. Human pilots trained in impossible conditions, learning to fly in asteroid fields and through the storms of gas giants. The shell had not faced real challenge in a million years. They had forgotten what fighting truly meant. Nari and her squadron reached the enemy flagship. It was enormous, 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. A normal pilot would have turned back. Nari was not a normal pilot. "Cover me," she told her squadron. "I am going inside." "Inside?" Her wingmen shouted. "That is insane." "Probably," Nari agreed. "But it will work." She flew her fighter through a damaged section of the hull into the ship itself. Alarms screamed. Shell soldiers fired at her, but she was too fast. She navigated the corridors by instinct, heading for the reactor core. When she found it, she armed her ship's remaining missiles and ejected a moment before firing. The explosion was massive, a sun being born inside the flagship. The great ship broke apart, spilling fire and debris into space. Nar floated in the void, her flight suit keeping her alive. A rescue shuttle found her 30 minutes later, half frozen but alive. The destruction of the flagship broke the Shal spirit. Commander Varek was dead. The chain of command collapsed. Ships that had never known defeat suddenly faced destruction. "They are retreating," Jay reported, watching the enemy fleet scatter. "All forces do not pursue. Secure the planet." When the battle ended, 1,000 shell ships had been destroyed. The rest fled into the darkness of space. The Human Alliance had lost 200 ships, good people who would never see home again. But Luminara was safe. The Keld survived. On the planet's surface, the Keld emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the sky where strange ships now orbited. Ships that had come to save them when no one else would. A message was broadcast to the planet. Admiral J's voice calm and strong. "People of Luminara, you are not alone. You were never alone. The forgotten species of this galaxy stand with you. Today we have shown the Council that we will not be ignored. We will not be erased. We will be free." In the Council chambers, Oryx watched the reports with something he had not felt in 3 million years. Fear humanity had announced itself to the galaxy. Not with words, but with fire and steel and the blood of their enemies. The Tier 7 species had broken the grates. Team military power and known space, everything had changed. And this was only the beginning. The Council chambers had never been so quiet. For 10 million years, the elder species had ruled from these crystal halls. They had watched civilizations rise and fall. They had made laws that governed 100,000 worlds. They had believed, truly believed, that nothing could ever challenge their power. Now they sat in silence. Waiting for the humans, Ambassador Han Su walked through the great doors with his head held high. He was 75 years old, but his steps were steady and his eyes were clear. Behind him came representatives of the Keld, the Mara, the Vasi, and 12 other species. The forgotten ones, the weak ones. The ones who had been told they did not matter. They mattered now. Oryx, the relay delegate, spoke first. His crystalline body flickered with nervous light. Ambassador Han, he said, his voice less cold than before. The Council has summoned you to discuss the recent events in Keld space. You have not summoned us, Su replied calmly. We have chosen to come. There is a difference. Murmurs spread through the chamber. No one spoke to the elder species this way. No one dared, but humanity had earned the right to dare. You have disrupted the balance of the galaxy, Oryx continued. You have attacked the Dominion of Shao. You have violated 100 treaties. The Dominion attacked an innocent world, Su responded. They called it purification. They meant genocide. The Council did nothing, so we did something. The Keld are tirate, another delegate said. Their protection is not our responsibility. Then we made it our responsibility. Su stepped forward, his voice rising. For 100 years, humanity has begged this council for help. When the Vorn attacked our colonies, you told us to die quietly. When plagues swept our stations, you sent no medicine. When our ships were destroyed, you filed reports and moved on with your day. He turned slowly, looking at each of the elder delegates in turn. You classified us as Tier 7. You called us primitive, insignificant, forgettable. You were so certain of your superiority that you never stopped to ask a simple question. What happens when the forgotten decide to remember? The chamber was utterly silent. Admiral OJ stepped forward. He activated a display that appeared on every screen in the room. A map of the galaxy, with human-controlled space, marked in blue. It had grown. It had grown enormously. 200 worlds, Jay said. 4,000 warships. An alliance of 30 species. This is what humanity has built, while you were not watching. The elder delegates stared at the map. Their faces showed disbelief, fear, and something that might have been respect. We do not want war, Su continued. We have never wanted war. Humanity dreamed of joining the galactic community as equals. We dreamed of peace, of cooperation, of friendship among the stars. You rejected that dream. You made us into warriors. He paused, letting his words sink in. But warriors can still choose peace. That is why we are here. Orcs leaned forward. What do you want? 3 things, Su replied. First, humanity will have a permanent seat on this council. Not as observers. As full members with equal voting rights. That is unprecedented, a delegate protested. So was the Battle of Luminara, Jay replied coldly. Su raised a hand. Second, every species in our alliance will be elevated to at least Tier 3 status. No more forgotten worlds, no more abandoned peoples. More murmurs of protest, but quieter this time. Third, the purification ends today. The Dominion of Shao will withdraw from all conquered territories. Any species that has been enslaved will be freed. This is not negotiable. The delegates looked at each other. For millions of years they had made the rules. Now someone else was making demands, and they had no power to refuse. And if we do not agree, Oryx asked quietly. Su smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then we leave this chamber, and we continue doing what we have been doing. Building, growing, waiting, and when the Shao attack again, or when another elder species decides to purify the weak, we will be there. And we will remember this moment. He let the threat hang in the air. But if you agree, he added, his voice softening, then we can begin again. Humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We want to share it. We want a future where every species, no matter how small or how young, has a voice. That future is possible, but it requires you to change. The vote took 3 hours. There was arguing. There was shouting. Some delegates threatened to leave. Others pleaded for time. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would have its seat. The alliance species would be elevated. Purification would end. As Su and Jay walked out of the chamber, Commander Nari was waiting for them. She had recovered from the Battle of Luminara, though scars still marked her face. "Did we win?" she asked. "We did not lose," Jay replied. "That is enough for now." On Earth. Admiral Kung Yuna received the news in her hospital bed. Dr. Park Jisoo held her hand as they watched the announcement together. Yuna was very weak now. She had only days left. "Your father would be proud," Jisoo said softly. Yuna thought of Daeho, standing alone in the council chamber a century ago, begging for help that never came. She thought of Minho, dying in the engine room to save his crew. She thought of all the humans who had fought and died so that this moment could happen. "We did it," she whispered. "They see us now." "They more than see us," Jisoo replied. "They fear us." Yuna shook her head weakly. "Fear fades. Respect lasts. That is what we must build now. Not an empire of conquest, but a community of equals." That was always the dream. She looked out the window at the night sky over Earth. Somewhere out there, her father's grave lay beneath the stars. Somewhere out there, new worlds were waiting to be discovered, new friends to be made, new futures to be built. "Tell Jay," Yuna said. "Tell him to remember who we are. Not warriors, not conquerors, just humans. People who refuse to be forgotten." She closed her eyes for the last time. 3 days later, she was buried beside her father. The funeral was attended by representatives from 100 worlds. Humans, Keld, Mora, Vasi, and others. All standing together under the same sky, Ambassador Su gave the final speech. Kong Yuna lived in a time when humanity had no voice. She died in a time when our voice echoes across the galaxy. She taught us that strength is not about conquest. It is about standing up for those who cannot stand for themselves. It is about building bridges instead of walls. It is about hope. He looked up at the stars. The galaxy overlooked us. They underestimated us. They forgot us. And now they will never forget again. Not because we are feared, but because we are worthy. Because we earned our place among the stars. The flags of 30 species flew together in the wind. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.